Recuse myself. And appoint Michael.
We probably should just.
Okay. Awesome. Super exciting. We good to go? Oh, sweet. Awesome. Thank you, Russell. Okay. Welcome. Oh, can we go back to the faces though? Is that possible? Yeah, thanks. Welcome everyone to today's advisory design panel, Thursday, April 16th. The first item is just to welcome everyone to the traditional territory of the Squamish Nation. Item number 2 is to adopt the agenda for today as presented. Can I have anyone move for adoption of today's agenda? Michael? And seconder, Andrew? All in favor? Lovely. It seems like everyone's in favor of that. Okay, moving forward. The next will be committee minutes. So there are minutes from the March 19th meeting attached to the agenda. And if there's any comment, open to it. Otherwise, looking for someone to move those adoption of the minutes. Jordan moves it. Michael seconds. Everyone in favor? Looks like it on the call. Lovely. Okay, and then for the new business item here on the 4th, well, I probably should have made that a new business item, but we're fine. I am going to recuse myself because this is a project that I am the proponent of, and elect that Michael step in as chair for this meeting. Can I have someone move that for me? Sarah, and seconded by Shora. Awesome. And with that, I will go back to the corner.
Yeah, Michael, so you're chairing now, so if you can move open the next item, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, well, moving ahead with our next item of business. Bryan, available to present the project?
I'll be presenting on Bryan's behalf.
Oh,
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Good afternoon, advisory design panel. My name is Jessie Fletcher. I'm the manager of current planning, and I'm stepping in for Bryan Daly, who is unable to be here today. Introducing the project known as development permit number 655 at 37495 Innovation Avenue, previously known as Lot O. This is a development permit application to establish the form and character of 5 mixed-use buildings located on the Squamish oceanfront. Previously, this has been known as Lot O. The development proposes 6,632 square meters of light industrial space at grade and 249 market rental units above, with a childcare facility and a dedicated arts space at the south end of the site. The development is subject to development permit area 12, the oceanfront guidelines. This project actually has been presented to advisory design panel before when it was at the rezoning stage last year or the year before. Staff are generally supportive of the site plan and specifically request ADP's feedback on building form and character and landscaping as it pertains to the development permit area. And I'll pass it over now to the applicants.
My name is David Schellingerhout. I'm an architect with Together Architecture Studio, and it's my great pleasure to present Lot O to you. So I'll run really quickly here through the project. Just let me get a few things set up. Started, and I click. There, beautiful. So just a little bit of context here. The oceanfront is a master plan community at the south end of Squamish. It connects the downtown to Howe Sound. And the Lot O project is located here on the western side. I'll refer to it as Lot O. I can never remember the address. So the Lot O project faces onto Innovation Ave as well as backs onto the Cattermole Slough. To the north is the carbon engineering site, and south is the Squamish Feather Park. A quick note about the master plan community is that the road grid was intentionally set at a slight angle to the prevailing winds, and you can read this in the perpendicular nature of the beaches. That combined with some planting and some trees in the building form that will eventually take place, we hope to encourage the wind to move up and over the project. So just wanted to get that out of the way. A little discussion about the neighbors. There's a residential project planned for directly east of our project at Lot O. This is Res 1. And to the north is the carbon engineering site. It's a kind of a constantly evolving industrial site. And across the Cattermole is the terminals. To the south is Squamish Feather Park, the playground, and the presentation center and brewery. So Lot O is designed to around 3 primary drivers. The first is the recognition and respect for the land and the incredible setting of the project. Second is the industry, both the past industry, the current industry and its neighbors, and as well as the intentions for the site. Lot O seeks to create flexible, desirable industrial spaces and allow a wide range of businesses and artisans. Finally, and importantly, it's an embrace and anticipation of this colorful community that's coming in here at Squamish and budding down at the oceanfront. And we're excited what this project will bring to that community. A quick overview to follow up with Jesse. The site's 3.7 acres large. It's 5 4-story mixed-use buildings on a shared parkade. The daycare building is a standalone with a community art space above. Project will bring 249 rental units, 25% will be family, an additional 22% 2 bedrooms, and then 20% of all those units, or a blend of those units, will be adaptable. They'll have 71,000 square feet of light industrial space and a 49 child daycare. Just for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to quickly focus on the 5 mixed-use buildings to begin with, and then we'll end the discussion with the daycare at the south. This next set of diagrams just quickly walks us through the form of the project and how we arrived, starting with the site. The site has 3 perpendicular roads, 1 unnamed, and then Work Street in the oceanfront. And all along the oceanfront is the continuous waterfront trail. I should note too that on the north side or end of the site is a 10-meter right-of-way, statutory right-of-way for pedestrian access, as well as service access to the Cattermole trail. The design team, this is a change since the rezoning. Through discussions with structural and geotech, the design team opted to extend the parkades across the entire site and join them. This provides more than adequate parking for the residential uses. It also houses all of our bike stalls and storage lockers. This also provides a significant amount of flexibility for the allotment and leasing of the rental spaces, and it lets the demand be blended across those 5 buildings. The massing started with 2 22-meter bars, 1 along Innovation Way to create a street edge, and then 1 along the Cattermole to front the Cattermole. The street grid was then extended through into the site, and that created a surface parking lot, which we will affectionately refer to as the parking courtyard. It houses 83 parking stalls, 11 of which are accessible. Along the Cattermole, we created a mid-block break to provide that pedestrian access to the waterfront trail. At grade is all the light industrial space, and above 3 levels of rental housing. On the larger, longer blocks, we use the elevator core to mark the entries, as well as break down the massing of the buildings. This break essentially divides the buildings into 8 similar-sized blocks, as well as provides daylight into those longer corridors. On buildings A and B, there's shared amenity space at the ground floor. Building A will have a lounge, building B will have a gym, and both of them will have the shared rooftop amenity as well. And this diagram shows some of the pedestrian connections through the site. We began to operate on the linear nature of the buildings by staggering every other face of the buildings. This provides the effect of varying building frontages as well as varying roof lines, just when seen in perspective. The design team imagined an simple industrial act of upgrading a raw material, in this case carving, taking a simple silver block of wood, which is represented by our corrugated metal, and then carving away to reveal brightly colored fibers below. And in our case, those brightly colored fibers become cementitious panels and provide a lot of the excitement and individuality to the project. The carving comes in two forms. One, large carves that make the full frame balconies, and then smaller ones that are more artful, a little bit more playful, that provide a lot of individual identity to the units and some surprises throughout. These are a few projects, some local, some further away, that we feel have done a really good job using bright colors on a simple neutral background. And we think that this adds an interest and a complexity, as well as provides a sense of identity for the individual rental units. Similarly, on Lot O, the balconies is what accepts the color and provides that unique individualness for each building. Each of the 8 buildings have their own color. You'll see we have 2 balcony treatments, one which is an exterior frame balcony on the left, and the other one which is a clip-on the left. Both are selected to minimize penetrations through the envelope and to keep our building form extremely efficient. So throughout the project, throughout these 5 or 8 blocks, we use a simple kit of parts, and we use it in playful ways. This flexibility allows all of the buildings to have that individual nature, but still remains part of a family through that shared detailing. It also gives us the flexibility to have some fun, create some nuances, and allow for some delight and some surprise in the elevation. So now I'll quickly just walk through a few renderings to get a feel for how these design concepts, the carving, the colors, and the kit of parts manifest on these buildings. The first view here is from the north, near Carbon Engineering, looking south. And you'll see that we use canopies along the street edge. And you'll also notice that building face being set back helps break down the linear nature of the project. This is a view at the future private road, unnamed yet, looking into the project through to building B with building C and D beside it. And you'll see that we use that kit of parts differently, sometimes not continuing around the corner, and that allows each building to have its own personality and its own feel. This is a detailed view of those colored clip-on balconies and some of the playful elements that we have that allow there to be that surprise and delight the longer you look at it. Also seen here is how we treat the base material. The base material through all the projects is a galvanized corrugated metal, and we change the orientation and profile here and there to provide relief and texture and different shadows. This is a view of that tree at the south, looking towards building A. You can see how that elevator core announces the entrance of the residential. You also see the generous sidewalks on either side of the drive aisles. And we've opted to provide planting along Industrial Ave to really soften the street. The detail here showing the canopies. These canopies extend about 1.7 meters away from the building. And I should note as well that the building itself is set back 2 meters from the site just to give more generous sidewalks in front of the spaces. We imagine that some of these industrial users may have a mercantile element, and that like bakeries and coffee shops, and they could spill out here. There's a view from the south looking to the north. This is building E, showing the full frame balconies. We use solid panels on the balconies to provide some wind shelter, as well as provide privacy to the bedrooms of the units. Simple picket guards are used in front of the living room spaces to let light in. Moving into the parking courtyard, we get a view here of how we've treated it. The concept here is that it's a singular saw-cut concrete surface, and it allows all the users to blend together and blur together. The courtyard features, I think I missed a page. The courtyard features 12 large planters that allow for significant trees to be planted. Those trees and those planters help break down the courtyard into smaller spaces. And the design here really lets these users blur and blend together. Wherever we have a small car space, we use a large bench. So there's lots of these moments where we encourage informal gatherings, meeting and sitting and enjoying it. All the residential lobbies front onto the parking courtyard, and they're announced by a large canopy, an address, a large graphic element, and we always position our 2 accessible spaces to provide that pedestrian access directly to the site, especially to the lobbies. Industrial bays feature oversized bay doors, and each industrial bay has been allotted 2 parking stalls so they can coordinate their deliveries. The oversized doors easily accept a Sprinter van. And this view gives you a little bit of a peek of that pedestrian access point through to the Cattermole. It's also where we've located our 2 Class B loading spaces. So now a view from the north looking to the south. On the left-hand side, you'll see the garbage facility, the shared garbage room, and on the right is where our parking entrance is. The garbage facility has been designed to be a lantern along the pedestrian muse, and it's sized to accommodate all of the industrial and residential uses in one building with a twice-weekly pickup schedule. The parking entrance here has been intentionally kept level so that that sidewalk in front of the buildings can be continued through and connect to the through block right-of-way at the north. View here from the Cattermole. This is our interpretation of the foreshore design. We should note that the foreshore is part of a separate application. However, we're coordinating with the designers to ensure a seamless connection. Moving closer, this is the pedestrian connection to the waterfront trail, and we've shown here stairs and large benches to take in the views. In the center of this courtyard, we've created an extra large planter so that we can have a significant tree. We imagine that that tree will be a bit of a gathering space for all of the industrial spaces for all of the users to mingle on. We also imagine that the industrial users on either side could spill out into this area and help program it. A view along the Cattermole, and then from the south. For buildings A and E, we let the colored carves and the color pops turn the corner. That allows those residential units to both face the water, but it also brings some of that excitement around towards the park. So that was my breeze through of all the mixed use buildings, and now I'll just take a few more minutes of your time to talk about the daycare and art space at the south. So with such a beautiful and prominent waterfront park, we made the decision that the daycare building should transition from the Lot O and transition into the landscape. And so we've designed the daycare building to feel as part of the artscape. So I'm clicking a little faster than I want. And I just wanted to remind everyone of the texture and the nature and the natural elements at the waterfront park and at Squamish Feather. So we tested a myriad of shapes on this site. I wanted to mention that we do have an additional high watermark wave run-up setback that further crunches the shape of this project. And for our target group size of 49, which required about 500 meters squared, 560 meters squared, we had to explore a lot of different shapes. The most efficient was a circle, but it didn't fit. And we soon discovered, though, that an egg shape is extremely efficient from an exterior perimeter to enclosed envelope. And we also discovered that it really nicely divided up the project into, or the outdoor space, into 3 separate gardens, play areas. And with that, we jumped on that and we moved forward with that, positioning the larger 3 to 5 group on the south with the larger garden, and the 2 smaller 0 to 3 groups on the north side with their smaller gardens. Positioned all the service spaces in a T through the middle, and that creates these natural pie shapes. The art space is positioned on the 2nd floor and placed right in the middle, the yoke, if you will. The art space has a terrace that walks out over top of the building, and it looks out to the waterfront. A few design principles. I won't talk about all of them. The idea here that there's a functional overhang, a 2-meter continuous overhang around the whole perimeter, and that provides us our recommended outdoor covered space. Also, sight lines are extremely good in the shape of building, allowing for there to be like almost a panopticon view from the interior to the exterior of each of the garden spaces. As well, the shape, by pulling it forward, allows for daylight to reach all of the gardens. And that's by positioning that art space in the center, lets that sunlight get to the edges. This diagram here describes the drop-offs and connections. We have 55 public parking spaces along this oceanfront street coming online. We have drop-off parking within the parking courtyard and a lay-by along Innovation Ave. And then it's extremely close for the daycare groups to go on field trips to the Squamish Feather play area. So we wanted to prove out that desire to make sure that we had daylight in those corners. These are just slides showing that study and that the shape does work and provide the daylight into the areas. That's a precedent. I'm running over my time here. This diagram shows how the different user groups are divided on the floor plan, how they interlock, and how that staff service space is accessible by all of the staff members and the users. A view from the south looking towards it, an elevation view. We have individual entrance for each user group, which is there for security reasons, but also operationally. And then the art space sets itself apart with a large galvanized metal door. From exterior materials, we're using a scalloped wood cedar shingle similar to the presentation center on the art gallery with the linear vertical oriented wood cladding on the bottom, and then brightly colored window frames. This just shows some of the materiality, some of that nature-based play. View here with that functional overhang. And we've intentionally brought the floor level or the roof level really low. That feels comforting and provides a lot of shelter. And I also want to quickly note that the building is faceted, the egg shape is faceted into a set of 5 unique 8-foot long panels. So it's all prefabricated and they click together. And by oscillating those 5 types, we're able to provide windows at kid height or for views, as well as doors, and get that really playful exterior without creating too much complexity in the construction. View of an idea of how the play space will work with the art gallery above and Lot O in the background. And a last aerial view of the project south tip. So I'll let Kevin take over from here, talk about the landscape.
Thank you. Is that this one? Yeah. I found it when I needed it. There we go. Thanks. Best stuff. I think we just pass it over. Perfect. So hi everyone. I'm Kevin Klassen with HAPA Collaborative, landscape architect of the project. And yeah, I'll just expand on what David's shared and focus in on the landscape for Lotto. So some of the driving rationale for the landscape is the industrial past, present, and future. So taking heavy inspiration from use of local materials and past activities, using large timbers as a nod to forests here and the past activities that have happened, and taking that into the furnishings for the site, as well as connecting to the coast. So acknowledging we're right on the Cattermole Slough and bringing that into the site and using a native and adapted plant palette and bringing that character inwards, as well as celebrating the views outwards so that users can admire what makes Squamish so special, and this location on the peninsula also so special. So I'll just take a moment to walk through some of the focus landscape areas on the project. I'll come back to the site plan shortly. So we have the courtyard that Dave mentioned, using heavy timbers aligned in order to carve out social spaces that can be spill out from the adjacent CRUs, using this heavy timber as well to provide a sense of protection and enclosure for people hanging out in here. And then a feature sort of viewing bench platform that can look out over the Cattermole, which is just page up. Then in the internal courtyard, a bit of a contrast between the heavy industrial inspired timbers and large format bollards to protect anyone on the bench and the furnishings themselves, as well as a kind of bolder surface applied graphic treatment for the parking adjacent to the CRUs. So having some sort of a really bold corresponding lettering system, and then having the inverse of that to denote the accessible stalls, the navigation zones, and visitor stalls as well. The colors of the parking will correspond with the colors used on the accents of the building, so you'll have a wide variety within the landscape. This is using the street bond from Hub Surface Systems, so a robust surface treatment that should stand the test of time. Along the building elevation as well, we have an idea of introducing some vertical planting and exploring, still in exploration phase of having climbing vines, twining vines, maybe a mix of both, and these don't necessarily have to be the same thing. So providing, again, identity for each location and breaking up the elevation of the streetscape. Looking at the daycare, we have the 3 spots, the 3 zones for the 0-3s and the 3 to 5s, incorporating various requirements that we expect, and we will refine with the future operator once one is found. Active motor areas, play loops, really focusing on nature play, so integrating, natural elements within planting so that it still feels like you're part of the foreshore and the natural landscape that is just beyond the daycare. Here you can see how the color coding matches up, and then the courtyard here. One other area that we are showing as a potential proposal, it's off-site, but we think it would be a special addition to have additional view space here out over the Sound and the terminals, as well as what we have learned is a valuable addition to a daycare is an extended arrival sequence. Allow kids to take a moment to calm down after getting out of the car or before having to go home and leave the daycare, save the parents a little bit of stress, save the caretakers a bit of stress, and as well as provide a more intimate space for the residents a little closer than the park, and to bring some of that natural character in with the grove of trees. So potentially that could be explored through further servicing agreement, but we wanted to show it as an enhancement to this. And I believe that is all we have. We have our, yeah. Oh. So yeah, I will leave it with that. Thank you all.
Right. Thank you for the presentations. Yes, we will move into a round of questions, and then following a round of questions, we'll have a round of comments. So is there anyone present on the panel not online, or is everyone online today?
Everyone is online today.
All right. Well, I'm going to start. Let's go through how I see people. Sarah, are you ready to provide questions?
Spot, no problem. Okay, thank you for the presentation. I didn't see, like, there's reference in the report that there will be 20% adaptable units. Are those going to be broken up amongst unit types, or is there all one type of unit? Have you guys figured that out yet?
Yeah, we have a mix of adaptable types across all the unit sizes.
Super. And then within the daycare space, and particularly sort of that active area, has consideration been taken for children with disabilities who might be using a power chair? Like I saw that there's a bridge in your precedence images. Is that going to accommodate?
The bridge would be flush, so yeah, that could be rolled over for sure.
Yeah, I'm also just cognitive of the width of a chair, so just something to be thinking about.
Yeah, that can be accommodated.
And then in terms of access to the waste room, I'm just trying to think this through. Like if I was to come down out of like building E, for instance, with my garbage, I have an overheight vehicle, so I would be parking somewhere in this middle section. Is it proposed that, somebody is supposed to sort of wheel down to the waste room, or are you anticipating that people would, jump in their vehicle with their garbage, run down to the waste room, run and chuck it in? I'm just trying to think about functionally how people will do that.
Yeah, I think they would use what means necessary to get from their unit to the shared garbage room. There's a person door as well as a large roll-up door to get into that space, and a little extra crush space in the driveways at the end of that. that at the end of the driveway to be able to turn around, kind of using the top of the parking ramp.
Okay. And then what else? I also saw that within the landscape images, there was one of the sort of beefier benches with a backrest that had armrests on. Where would
Mhm.
those seating locations be with the armrests?
Let's just, can we get into
Because
the,
it seems that the other ones are all just sort of these square
I don't know if we're
benches
still
or
sharing.
oh yeah, I don't think we're sharing screen.
Can you describe it?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the image as well with the armrests. Sorry. I think we're still sorry. I think we're still early enough days on the design for the timber features that could be any of them. But we're probably, are we talking about
no, stop. You missed it. Go back one.
these ones?
There. Nope. Not the. So that's what.
Oh,
What's
these ones.
the yeah, that one
Yeah.
that's got a backrest and the arm.
Yeah. So that would
I
be
was
these
just.
ones on the outside of the planters and
Oh,
on the
okay,
inside
gotcha.
of the planters. Yeah,
Okay,
Both sides.
both sides. Yeah,
both
both sides
sides.
of the planters. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
I thought you were talking about
oh,
the larger timbers.
yeah, no, I just wanted to ensure that there was going to be some benches that had some armrests on. Excuse me. And then just looking again at the front page of the landscape. To the front page? Third page, is that there says there's a potential connection to the park pathway. So I'm just, noting that there's stairs that go down through the middle of between building A and building B.
This or
I'm just wondering
Is it
what
down?
the
Yeah.
accessible route would be to get onto the pathway that
yeah.
leads along.
So there's a connection on the sidewalk from the interior parking courtyard, and then there's a pathway up here that connects as well. So that could go around, and that would be without stairs. That would be accessible.
Right, but is there anything from the south end, like from
Oh, from the south end.
building A? It looked like
Building A.
there was
Okay.
on one of the drawings. It says there's a potential connection through
Yeah,
there to the.
we're proposing this grove and the overlook rather than a connection at this point.
Okay.
So yeah, that the accessible and the only way around would be this way, down the sidewalk on the south.
Yeah, at the
Okay.
south, we have a grade change to mitigate that wave run up for the high water mark 100-year, 200-year storm.
Okay.
So it's creating quite a grade change between the path and the site.
So yeah,
Okay.
we're opting to not traverse that slope with stairs anymore.
Okay, and then to access the existing multi-use path that goes into the right of way on the southwest
Yeah.
area, then you're going to be
Oh,
crossing
south.
in front of the ramp that leads into the parking garage.
This one, yes.
Yeah.
It would be. But you could, it's a little bit rendered over here, but there's a connection up here as well.
But if you're in like building E, D, or C, you wouldn't be able to access that, right?
No, you'd be crossing. Yeah.
Okay.
Or you could go, you wouldn't want to go around, but you could. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's all my questions at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Andrew, would you like to go?
Thank you can you hear me okay?
We can hear you now.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation to the proponents. A couple of questions that I had. What is the proposed integration with the carbon engineering, the industrial site just beyond this site?
The integration is actually just embracing that 10-meter statutory right of way as a buffer, a landscape buffer between Carbon Eng and this project. Are, yeah, is that what you mean, or?
Yeah, I was just curious what your approach to that buffer was. It's quite a different use type to the residential uses besides. So
Oh, like land use
Yeah,
wise,
yeah. I mean, there is the lift station for the building C as well. That's between theirs. But for building B, which is a little bit more close, they have a kind of a diagonal view, and then our units are designed at the north end to look either east or west, and not really have any of the not have any balconies facing the carbon edge.
okay. And then the amenities building, the amenities proposed, and they're across a couple of buildings. Is the site proposed that those amenities are accessible to all units within the site and all residents on the site?
That's correct. Yeah, they're both located in A and B, and there would be like a fob access to get into that lobby and to the lounge and the gym, as well as up to the two rooftop amenity spaces. So those are for all
Okay.
buildings to use.
The art space above the daycare, who are the proposed sort of user groups for that space?
That's a great question. I think we're seeing it as a civic use.
Sorry, David, if I can
Yeah.
jump in here. The space has been secured to be leased at a nominal rate to the Squamish Arts Society for a 25-year lease, I believe.
Okay. And then my last inquiry is sort of what informed the steel cladding on the buildings. What was your design intent or inspiration, reflecting that steel cladding being a large portion of the building cladding?
Yeah, we alluded to it briefly there, that imagining these silver pieces of driftwood found on the beach that were then kind of carved to expose the colorful fibers below. It's also a very industrial material, and so it's something that's found across lots of these sites. To use it in its raw galvanized nature is interesting to us. I think that's the same material that's been used on the roof of the presentation center, that same quite shiny raw galvanized metal. And it provides that really natural base. It comes, when it arrives on site, it's bright and fun, and then over a couple of years it'll dull into quite a chalky gray and serve as a nice neutral for those bright colors to continue to shine through.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. Michael, that's the end of my questions. We can move on to the next.
Okay. Thanks, Andrew. Dora, would you like to go?
Sure. Thank you for this thoughtful presentation. I have a couple of questions. One of them is about the daycare. Is there a drop-off area for the daycare, or is it just a street beside on the lower portion of this drawing that is allocated for pickup and drop-off?
Yeah, so there's the street lay-by on Innovation Way. Then we've located as many visitor stalls as we tried to locate a lot of visitor stalls at the south here. So those would be the quick drop-off ones. And then in addition, along Oceanfront Street, there's 55 public spaces. So we're hoping that all of those together will provide those options for kids that maybe need more time versus the ones that need less. We continue to try to see if we can extend this lay-by in front and create a kind of a 3-minute parking space, but it's definitely, these roads have been baked a long time ago. So we're kind of working with what we got here.
Sure. And how do you come up with the size of the daycare? You said 46? Is that right?
Yeah, it's a 49 child
49.
daycare, and it's from the BC health recommendations. One of their combinations that work really well. The two 12 groups of 12, they share the bathrooms and kitchen, and then the larger group is a standalone 25-person group. So it's one of their most efficient combinations for caretakers to students or to children. We've spoke to some daycare operators, and that seems to be for the medium to small operators, the real sweet spot for number of kids.
Thank you. And my last question is about the industrial spaces. Are those rental as well, or they will be sold individually?
They're rental as well.
Rental as well. And will they have bathrooms and amenities built into them, or they will have a shared access to bathrooms and such?
They'll all be provided with roughed-in plumbing, and also two vertical bike racks will be located in every light industrial bay.
Great.
I think we'll
thank
just
you.
give them the bike racks when they get it. So.
Nice. That is all my questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Shora. Dilbag, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for your presentation. I just have a few questions. So the first one was about the daycare. Are you able to explain how the daycare outdoor spaces are protected from the adjacent industrial loading, circulation, and like noise given its proximity to the internal drive aisles, the courtyard parking?
There's a landscape layer, I think, talk about how it's buffered from the parkade area or the parking plaza. Yeah. There's a picket fence that will circle the outdoor areas, and then significant planting, naturalized planting as well. So that'll experientially separate the two uses as an external layer. But yeah, internally, I think they're.
And then from the terminals, that future berm and growth there will also buffer it on that side.
At the same time, we do think that the kids will be interested in seeing the action at the terminals. So there is opportunity for some vertical features within the daycare outdoor spaces to look out at
see the big boats,
see everything happening out there.
Okay, and one more. How will the privacy be managed with adjacent balconies? I believe it's the buildings with the cantilever balconies. And I see that the fully recessed buildings the balconies have partition walls dividing, but the cantilever buildings, the balconies, or is there a divider?
Yeah, there's dividers along the terrace. There's dividers at level 2, and then where there terraces along the terrace, and then where there's certain instances where we play and move and shift the balconies to join them together, there'll be an additional divider placed there. But we're really depending on that just gap between the clip-on balconies to create that privacy.
Okay, yeah, that was all my questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dilbag. Kim, would you like to go? Oh, I think you're muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, again, thanks for the presentation. And I've got just a couple questions. Is there subsidized rentals within the project, or is it all market?
It'll all be market.
Okay. And I was wondering if you had considered another access to the underground parking, if you had looked at that, in addition to the one you have already.
In the rezoning, we had 2 parking entrances, one below each bay. The one at the south end was risky from a wave run up and water penetration. So moving it to the north, and when we joined together into one parkade, made a lot of sense.
Okay. Yeah, really, those were my only questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Elle, would you like to go?
Sure. I only have a couple. I think lots of stuff has been covered. Thanks for the presentation. I love the color. I think you've done a good job on the kind of surprise and delight elements of the color. But I was curious a little bit more, kind of building off of Andrew's question about the choice of the corrugated metal. Can you just tell us a little more about how it acts maybe in the weather a bit. I'm thinking about the pedestrian experience of walking by kind of these swaths of shiny corrugated metal, and what will the experience be like in the summer? Is it bright? Will it reflect the heat? Or what is the experience like in the winter? Are there kind of any risks of how it interacts with icy, snowy days?
No, it's a great question. I think experientially, it should be quite muted. It's a building material that's used all the time for industrial buildings and buildings that you walk by. We are softening it with the landscaping and the plantings along Industrial Ave, and a significant amount of the pedestrian zone there is glazed with storefronts. So there's not really too many big swatches of the corrugated metal. And then where people are coming out on their balconies above, generally those are where there's the color pops, and those are painted cementitious panels. So there's a kind of higher quality material, or more friendly, smoother material where people are occupying and sitting and enjoying. Yeah, it is a very robust material and a very effective for this large of a project. So
Great, thanks. Can you also, you touched on it a little bit, but on the, is it Industrial Ave that's running along, or is it Innovation Ave that's running along the bottom there?
Oh, Innovation.
I'm not sure. I wasn't sure there. Can you talk a little bit more about the pedestrian kind of experience along there? I know there's like seating and planters that you referenced in some of the images along there. Will you have options for people to sit as well and kind of shade with the size of those planters?
Currently we're depending on the occupants to spill out into that space to create those seating opportunities. We should note that it is quite a wide right of way. There is a bike path, full sidewalk, a median,
Right.
side like parking, and then we have another generous, like another 2 meters that the building is set back. And I think we carve into that 2 meters with our planting a little bit, just to break up that and create those little rooms along the way. Trying to add that texture. I didn't mention it, but the canopies overhanging, they're not fully continuous. Some of them, sometimes they break, that let the plantings come up through. And they also give the opportunity for signage to hang on there. So you get these perpendicular signage elements while pedestrians are walking along.
Great. And then I think my last question is just, you mentioned a little bit about the paving material, but curious about if you've thought of how to kind of control the speed of the traffic, just given how many people will be spilling through that area, and maybe some kids on some of those internal corridors.
Yeah, I mean, it is sock-cut concrete. We're using a really gentle roll curb, like a Wunderf approach, a roll curb to designate the pedestrian areas. Then the planters that you saw in those images, they come right up to the drive aisle, and that has the effect of really smushing the space and slowing down that traffic and those deliveries. Those planters have those like big heavy-duty bollards and big wooden elements to them to, like, if they have to take a hit, they'll take a hit and bounce back. So yeah, we are hoping that there's enough visual stimuli to really slow down traffic in that space. So
To add to that, we've also added these strips that are aligned with the building entrances, so that if you're driving through the space, you have a bit of an indication that someone might be coming out there.
Oh yeah,
cool opportunity to have it.
Yeah.
great. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
I think so. Jordan, would you like to go?
Sure, thank you, and thanks for the presentation. Just a couple quick questions. What is the rough percentage of paved to non-paved surface on your site?
We are below the paved to non-paved, like permeable to non-permeable.
Yeah, like I recognize this is on slab, but so that's why I use paved to non-paved. But like, what percentage is just pavement versus soft landscape?
Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't have that on top.
I don't have the percentage.
As you can see, it is a large proportion of paved, though.
If I said 80%, would that be accurate, roughly?
That rings, yeah, that sounds about right.
Thanks. And somewhat related, oh, sorry, were you still responding?
No, thanks.
Okay, so yeah, somewhat related, what was the required parking provision by policy versus what you've provided here?
That's an excellent question. I can refer to the DP drawings in a second.
Sure, thank you.
Have them open here. So I believe with the rezoning requirement, we need 312 total parking uses.
Mhm.
Or, yeah, with the rezoning. Requirement as per rezoning. Residential. Yeah, the residential requires 312. Total across the site requires 404 stalls.
Okay, and you're in at like 479 or something like that, was it?
Yeah, 379.
379. Okay, so you're under.
Blanking here.
We are exceeding it under a shared parking model.
Yes, the shared parking model. Sorry, that's right over here. There we go. Through the shared parking model. Sorry about this. The maximum that we're required is 331. Using the
Okay,
shared
and
parking model.
you've provided how many? Sorry.
379.
Okay, so you're 8 stalls over provided. Okay, thanks.
We're
That's
31 to 79 is 50. Math.
yeah.
40.
So mine's obviously way off.
42. 48 stalls. 48
Okay,
extra.
so you have about 48 extra. Okay, great. So Michael, thanks. That's all my questions.
Just to add to that, that'll allow, like, that leasing allows us to also lease to those some of the stalls below grade to make the industrial spaces more viable as well for like more employment, and even dedicating them to the daycare below grade so that employees are parking in a secure location.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very
Full
much.
flexibility. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Jordan. I just had a few questions. So I understand that the sort of the frontage on Catamount Slough is a different project. Is the daycare landscaping part of this project?
The daycare landscaping is, yes, but the potential forest grove is not.
Is not. Okay. I didn't see the planting plan or kind of the layout in the submitted drawings for that, but you said it's largely native
Yeah.
species. Can you?
We have it.
Okay.
Here we are. Can we zoom in? No, probably not. Yes, mostly native, but there's certainly some adapted species as well. I'm gonna go these 3 areas plant list. So in the parking area, we're relying on the hardiness of dune grass to have the base field condition, and then some bits of interest. Kind of that's the approach in a lot of these areas as well.
Could you just pan to the trees quickly?
Oh, trees. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. The one other question I had is with the rooftop, I saw there was a trellis feature. Is there any rain protection available on the rooftop patios?
No, there's only a small canopy at the entrance, and the entrance to the outdoor area.
Okay. Right, that's all the questions I had. So we will now move into comments, and I'm going to just go in the same order as best as I can remember it. So Sarah, do you want to lead us off?
Sure. I just have sort of a question comment all at once, because you had mentioned that it was saw cut concrete in that inner plaza parking area, but then said that there's a rollover curb. Can you explain? So is there a rollover curb between the sidewalk and the parking?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but there will be curb cuts then adjacent to the accessible parking or not? Because the rollover curb is only works for vehicles or bicycles.
Okay.
Not for a manual wheelchair user.
that has to be provided.
Well, we'll soften that to really, we're looking for a border at that, some line border, just to
Distinction.
demark that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
want access to be seamless.
Yeah. So again, I would just encourage you to have a variety of the seating that has some armrests and backrests on it throughout the site. Ensure that you've got that your widths will accommodate, a child with a disability, particularly in a power chair, to participate in play in the play area. I would rethink the pathway to the existing multi-use path. Instead of it going on that sort of western side in front of the underground parking access, is maybe think about it on the other side adjacent to the waste room, so that that you could then have some line painting on the ground, that at least that's out of the path of travel to access that that pathway. And then also another thing to think about is that as these are going to be market rental, that some consideration should be given to the possibility the renter might need these to be adapted to be accessible. So that's something that whomever is going to be managing these units should be cognizant of, that it will require some funding. And to reduce some of those costs is to just think about extending your flooring beneath the cabinets, having the cabinets so that they are a bit modular, that you might be able to just remove the cabinet without having to disrupt the other set of countertop, etc. Because being adaptable means they will at some point need to be adapted. And that is all of my comments. Thanks for the presentation today.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Andrew?
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you, Michael, for sharing. And thank you to the proponent for the parking stall math. My comments are as follows. I think it's been really great to see the project has really made an effort to meet all the DPA guidelines. I think that the pops of color and your approach to that is going to be really welcome, from like specific to your site, but also it will be nice to see the continuity across several sites in that area. So I think that that's going to be very welcome. My critical comments would be that I think to Bryan's comments on the DPA form, just around expanses of similar like material, and to some of the Squamish related cladding elements. I think that there is a lot there, and I think that industrial nature could be carried with a few more like elements to break up the broader expanses of similar cladding. So I mean, that could be met in a few ways per the DPA guidelines, but sticking with sort of your industrial nature, I think a few industrial elements to sort of facilitate those two areas that Bryan commented that were partially met. So I appreciate the proposal, and I'm going to limit my comments at cladding today.
Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. Let's see, Shora?
Yeah, I think the proposal is very successful in animating those simple forms with the balconies and different types of colors and projections, and carving out those elements. I think that is very successful. I really like the expression of the daycare, how it is very different from the rest of the proposal, and it sort of sits in this unique jutted out area at the end of the site. It's really nice that it's all rental. So lots of compliments. My only comment would be about the functionality of pick up and drop off at the daycare. I really hope that all these 49 kids are within this complex and they just walk to the daycare. But I do think that drop off and pick up time can get busy, and counting on a couple of spots on the street and the public spaces which could be filled it might be a little bit hard. But apart from that, a really nice project. Thank you for presenting it to us.
Thanks, Shora.
Thanks, Shora. Dilbag?
Yes. Overall project strategy is clear and organized. I really like the daycare design, but further emphasis on the building experience at the human scale, especially at grade, it feels more comfortable and engaging for people throughout the site, as the accessibility throughout the parking courtyard could be strengthened, ensuring a clear, defined, protected pedestrian route that isn't competing with the vehicles, as I feel like there's an opportunity for a clear hierarchy and to ensure safety.
All right, Dilbag. Kim?
Well, I think the project overall is great. I like the simplicity of the concept of the buildings and with the generic forms and how the color really identifies them and the in and out of the. So they're very simple moves, but I think they give it an identity, which is quite good. I like the metaphor of the egg as the daycare center. I think that's quite lovely. I worry about traffic jams in that parking garage because that's a lot of people. And there's going to be a lot of cars, and they're not all going to go out at different times. So between that and then a little bit of jam up if you're driving your garbage to the waste center and blocking that access to the parking garage. So I think that's a problem. I understand why you've done it. You explained that you had issues around having two accesses. So maybe it's just the best that can be done, but I do think that that's a bit of a problem. But overall, great presentation, and I think a really nice, solid project.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Kim. Elle?
Yeah, I agree with what everyone's saying so far. I think the pops of color are going to make it so lovely in our rainy months to have something like that. And it's taken Canada a long time to figure out we need some color like that. So good job on that. I think just remembering that this is such an important site, particularly in this development, being so connected to the park, the slough, the brewery, the daycare, kind of it's probably going to be a moment where you have more pedestrian activity than some of the other sites. So just doing whatever you can. I know you're limited with your right of way along that innovation avenue, but whatever you can to just enhance that pedestrian experience. So do people need places to pause? Is it pouring rain? How do they kind of like move around each other? So I just keep thinking about that a little bit. I also agree with Andrew's comment on the cladding, and maybe there's a consideration on even when you're deciding your final planter material, can you possibly reference some of the materials from what you've done in the daycare? And then the last thing too, just on that connection point with where it's located for your planting and how you're thinking about the daycare as well as your future project closer to the water, just that kind of the importance of that intertidal garden that exists now, and kind of some of the work and careful work that went into Squamish Park in terms of how they're thinking about native species. I think it's just an opportunity for that kind of learning and education component of what exists already to be brought into there as well. That's it from me.
Thank you. Thanks, Elle.
Thanks, Elle. Gordon?
Yeah, thank you. Like, I also really like the project. I like how expressive you are with what is ultimately a very efficient design overall. My critical comments would be like, I think you do have a lot of parking and a lot of the site is dominated by impervious surface. So if we are over provided here, maybe flipping that up and having what is now parking, some of it dedicated to be more soft landscape or amenities for pedestrians and things like that. I think the childcare playground, I think maybe there could be a little bit more element of challenge and variety in there. Like a lot of it is like stepping and balancing, but maybe other types of play could be considered. Maybe work with your operator to come up with something that adds a little bit more interest and kind of healthy sense of risk taking for the kids. Otherwise, I think that's it. Like I think it's a great project, and yeah, appreciate you sharing with us.
Thanks, Jordan. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. I didn't have many comments that weren't already mentioned. I do want to suggest that you revisit the wildfire DPA guidelines for the plant material on the roof with the dune grass, just to confirm if that is appropriate or not on the roof. The Quercus species, I know it does produce acorns, and I know in the estuary there is sort of the English oak is starting to become more invasive and kind of crowding out some of the native plants. So I don't know if there's another opportunity to use a different species that has sterile seed or doesn't produce seed. But one thing I'd caution of with using the oak in the estuary area. Yeah, I don't think I have any other comments. Yeah, thanks for the presentation, and it's a good project.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
All right, with that, I think is the order we usually go in. I summarize the comments, or do we kind of vote on a recommendation, and if needed, then we summarize the comments? Does it matter?
I think it's kind of up to you. Typically, we do appreciate if you can summarize the comments, but I think you can go motion or comments first.
I will go with
you got to read the thing at the bottom. Sorry to interrupt you. Carlos just has reminded me from the audience that you should read the potential motions at the bottom first.
Okay, I was going to summarize the comments and then read the motions.
Yeah, excellent. Perfect. He's giving me the thumbs up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, please let me know if I've missed any comments. It's not my strength to be writing and listening at the same time. Consider wheelchair accessibility with the roll curbs, and if curb cuts are required. Make sure that consider that there's a good seating variety with armrest and backrest throughout for accessible seating. Consider the provision of play opportunities for children in wheelchairs. Consider how the access pathway to the multi-use pathway, how it crosses in front of the garage access, and if there's it can potentially be directed past the waste center. And then consideration for how the market rental could be adaptive in sort of the design considerations of those units. Considering sort of the breakup and expanses of the cladding with sort of more Squamish related elements. Some concern about the functionality of the pickup and drop off with cars and if enough space is provided for that. Some further consideration for opportunities for sort of a clearly defined pedestrian access through the drive aisles. Some concern for the traffic jams in parking with the parking garage with the one entrance, and if there's any way that can be alleviated. Similarly, with potential for blocking the parking garage with people dropping garbage off at the waste center, and if that can be alleviated anyway. Looking at sort of enhancing, again, the pedestrian experience through different elements and how the pedestrian will experience the development, and sort of the learning opportunities and integration of the native plantings throughout the site. And then considering providing more soft landscape over the paved areas if there's some concern with the amount of paving within the project, and then also looking at considering more challenging and variety in the play elements provided in the playground. And then reviewing the DPA wildfire guidelines for the plant material, and some concern for the Quercus species and its invasive tendencies. Are there any other comments, or did I not correctly capture comments? not hearing or seeing anyone. So we will move on to voting for the potential recommendations, which are A, that the advisory design panel supports the project as presented and does not need to see the project return for further review. B, that the advisory design panel supports the project as presented and would like the applicant to work with staff to resolve the following recommendations. C, that the advisory design panel supports the projects as presented and would like the applicant to resolve the following recommendations and return to present the revised project to advisory design panel. Or D, that the advisory design panel does not support the project as presented for the following reasons. So do we have a
I'll
motion?
make motion B.
All right. There are motions B.
I can second that.
We have a second. So all in favor? I can only see half of us. Any opposed? Is that easier? Let's see. All right. So we have option B, that the advisory design panel supports the project as presented and would like the applicant to work with the staff to resolve the following recommendations, which I have summarized. I think we have those captured in the minutes. Is that correct, or do we need to revisit those recommendations?
We're good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. With that, I believe.
I just have a comment to Jesse. It was about the development permit guidelines and the analysis and mailrooms. So within the guidelines, it says that common services, including mailboxes, should be universally accessible, and that it says a maximum height of 1.4 meters. That doesn't actually follow CSA B651. It should be that mailboxes shouldn't be located between 900 and 1200 millimeters above ground, and that defaulting to BC Building Code doesn't actually deal with any specifications around accessible mailbox design, nor does Canada Post either. I mean, they just talk about, a barrier-free route to them. So I think that that's something that planners should be aware of, and that mailboxes in projects for accessible units anyways should be beneath that height. And you might want to just adjust your design guidelines.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Noted.
Perfect. That's all I've got. But I can make a motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Sarah. Do you have a second? And I see a couple. Okay. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Terminated. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.